What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? My name is Noel, and I'm sitting here on New Comic Book Day, Part 2 every week, Wednesday, in front of all my disheveled bookshelves and stuff. Just read a couple of books and thought it'd be cool to do a Thunder Round on each one. One is a big two that kind of blew me away when I wasn't expecting it, and the other is a comic from Vault Comics that was actually a really solid read, but we'll get into those. Just before I do, though, be sure to like and subscribe everything we're doing here on the channel. I know it's been a little bit since we've done some Thunder Rounds as separate videos, but, you know, the weeks go by and we do what we can. But what we don't lapse on is the fact that every single Sunday morning at 10:30 we live stream our podcast, the Cult Pop Podcast, where we talk about the week's comics, we do some reviews, as well as talk about pop culture. This week we got a bunch of really great books, and we're probably going to talk about DC Fandom, which is happening this weekend. There's probably going to be a couple some really cool stuff that happened there last week. Again, we talked about DC and some of the big changes that have been happening. So if you want to hear that conversation, just go back in the feed and do so. But I mean, without further ado, let's talk about some of the comics that came out today. The first one that I wanted to talk about was a new comic by Vault Comics called Shadow Service, which is written by Cavan Scott and Corin Howell. Well, art by Corin Howell. I think this might be the variant cover, but regardless, it's still pretty cool. Now, I have not read much from Vault Comics. I think one or two series here and there, but I'm not exactly sure where they stand, not so much on my pull list. But if I ever see anything that's cool, I will pick it up, and or I've got a retailer, JD, who tossed this stuff at me and it's like, hey, this looked kind of cool, this looked kind of cool. So we're always trying to help each other discover new things, which is really fun. But either way, I want to talk about that first. And then the second one, you know what? We'll hold off and talk about the second one until I'm done with this. So I got 1 minute on the clock. We're going to talk about Shadow Service, again, written by Cavan Scott and art by Corin Howell. And boom. So, this was a bit of a surprise. It is a private detective story, but it deals very much with the supernatural elements, witchcraft and potentially others. But you have a private investigator who may or may not be a witch. The pacing is great. The dialogue is fun. The way that they tease out little abilities or things that this character can do is done really well, and it's very engaging, very entertaining. We're introduced to the world in very quick order, given a flashback in very quick order, but it's not jarring. It's actually pretty well done. The art is fantastic. It's got a little bit of a Dan Mora feel. The coloring is on point. This reminded me, in a way, of Black Magic, which is another book about witches that are police. So it's like a procedural with witchcraft. However, this has much more of a... Oh, that was a minute. This has more... If anybody's read Black Magic before with the art by Nicholas Scott, that is a... It's a much more nuanced and kind of realistic procedural in how it deals with witchcraft and police work. This is like more of a, not a B-movie version, but it's a little bit more exploitative with violence and horror movie elements. So it's almost like a grindhouse version of that kind of thing so far. You know, there's some pretty creepy things in here, and it's they really do lean into it. It's not if Black Magic is a drama, this is definitely a late night horror movie version of that, but still very well done. I would recommend giving this a shot, especially if you like horror comics, which I tend to not often. So this was a bit of a surprise for me. It's very cool. That's Shadow Service #1, came out today by Vault Comics. The second thing I wanted to talk about is Thor #6 by Donny Cates and Nick Klein. this is the last issue of the arc for them, which seems to be the beginnings of a long run by at least Donny Cates, and hopefully Nick Klein comes in and out if he can handle the monthly schedule, because his art is spectacular. But if you come across anything online about this book, avoid it. Just read it cold, especially if you're reading. If you're on this series, don't spoil it for yourself. Just read it. But let's attempt to talk about it without giving anything away. Okay, so let's start the clock. There we go. All right, so number 6, Herald of No One. This is the wrap up of the first arc. Art's amazing. The story is great. It's very big with high-powered cosmic characters. It often turns into a Dragon Ball Z style of fight where everyone's just powering up and grimacing forever, and then it's like just beams against beams. Donny Cates has a way or has shown a way of doing that level of cosmic fight, but still showing the beats of it so it doesn't seem redundant or unnecessary or prolonged. This is a very effective book. Something happens midway in the book that is, oh, that's a shock. And then something happens at the very end of the book that's, I'm not frozen, that was just my mouth. So I know that there's a variant cover of this available in shops, and it's a spoiler variant. It only depicts the middle turn of the book, which if you had been reading the last 5 issues, you kind of saw it getting that, like going there. Like this was definitely probably going to happen to this character, and that happens. But the third act of this issue was mildly jaw-dropping because it was very Marvel Comics continuity heavy, but also very unexpected. And it indicates that these creators seem to have a much larger plan with the character, but then also with all of Marvel Comics, or this like cosmic. So this is if anyone else is a fan of Donny Cates, if you're reading Venom right after Absolute Carnage, which was the first like event through Venom, there was a issue of Venom that kind of tied in, or was like a coda, and it had I think it was issue 20. If you guys are reading it, you know what I'm talking about. It featured the Maker, which is the Ultimate Universe version of Reed Richards, who is evil, and he had been a part of the book. But the way that issue is structured, it is very much like this issue, where it's the first half of the book is a resolution of what had been happening before, but then it sets up some surprising things that could mean 20 other things. So, to spoil Venom that came out 6 months ago, or more actually, or longer because of the pandemic. So they came out early this year. It was revealed in the end of that issue that the Maker had been working out ways to return the Ultimate Universe, which had disappeared during Secret Wars. So all of those stories coming back into continuity. And then it was revealed that he has been in league with the Council of Reeds, which we hadn't seen since Jonathan Hickman's run of Fantastic Four. So it was bringing these wild other aspects of Marvel continuity and putting them in a Venom book, which was a surprising shock, which is redundant. Either way, it was a shock. It was fun to read. This is kind of like that, where the first half of the book is about the resolution, which is big in and of itself, and then the second piece of this book brings in these weird disparate pieces of Marvel continuity, and kind of a very weird shocker that I hope goes somewhere. If it's a 2-year or 3-year plan, bitchin'. but definitely this should be a story that they progress towards. And I loved this issue. This series is spectacular. This issue is great. I cannot recommend it enough. I can't wait for the guys to read it so we can talk about it. But yeah, those are my 2 Thunder Rounds, which were definitely more than 60 seconds, which I didn't mention before. I mean, if you can catch on, a Thunder Round is a 60-second review. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe this channel. Hit the bell to be notified when we go live, which is definitely every Sunday morning at 10:30 to live stream our podcast, the Cult Pop Podcast, where we talk about the reviews of the week as well as pop culture news and happenings. If you join us live, be part of the conversation. We often just respond. So it's a bit of a community talk. It's really fun, and you should come. Other than that, maybe we'll do some more Thunder Rounds this week in the interim. But, I mean, thank you. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for spending the last 10 minutes with me. There's my comic book stack this week was quite large. So I still got like 12 or 13 more books to read through. And I'm nothing but excited. These are just 2 that were at the top of the stack that really impressed me in different ways. So, like and subscribe. Links down below. Thank you for spending time with me, and I'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.